In this daily drop, we're going to talk about a couple of pieces of kit you should probably always have in your kit when you're going on location and on set. So let's go. Whoo-wee. It has been a long day. I have been prepping for this production I have coming up in Seattle, and it has been, as always, kind of you think you have everything sorted out for what you're bringing, and then you start talking to the client. You start thinking about little things that you might need, and then all of a sudden you're doing a custom pack for a job again, which is basically the way, at least for me, it goes. So if you watched the last episode of the Daily Drop on Friday, I break down an app called Set.a.light 3D, or I don't really break down the app. I break down a preliminary lighting and camera setup diagram of how I'm pretty much going to approach the production for this green screen shoot. Now, it's evolving. There's been changes. I'll probably do a follow-up episode to that, maybe even for tomorrow, where I break down the evolution of how that's been progressing, which I think is interesting. But tomorrow I'm heading up to the stage, which is being painted because it's usually a white cyc. It's being painted green. And I'm not really worried about the lighting in the grid for the green screen, but it's the placement of all the other lights and modifiers and cameras that I'm concerned about, because when we walk in for a 7:30 a.m. call on Tuesday, we're going to have to move quickly to get to where we need to be before the client shows up, and we have to get into production. It's going to be a pretty fast day in terms of that, the way my client wants to run it. So for me, one of the most important things is to get in there, and now that I've done some diagrams and I have some measurements, it's to get those things where they need to be as quickly as possible. So I've been speaking with the owner, who's also going to be on location for the shoot, and he's going to be the one who's going to basically be swinging in terms of grip electric. And we're on the same page about everything, but it's a really small crew. So the first thing that I'm going to bring with me, which I'm sure the studio has, is a tape measure. Good old 25-foot, real tape measure. And that should be plenty because we've got a 45-foot width in the space, and that should be plenty for the measurements I need to do from the 3 different walls that I'm placing things from. So that's that. And then there's another thing inside of this bag, which I sometimes forget I have. And this is a laser distance measurement tool. So we'll just call it a laser tape measure. This one's made by Leica. They're generally about $80 to $120 US for this particular model. And it's really fast and extremely precise. So I'm just going to turn this on right now. I'm going to take a measurement to the wall that's in front of me. That's the first one. And that's 7 feet, 11 inches. So just under 8 feet to that wall. And then it'll just keep tallying my measurements. So I'm just going to turn around. Let's see. You can see that. There's the back wall. And I've taken a measurement. And that's just under 24 feet. I mean, this is basically about a 30-foot space here in terms of this depth that I have here. Well, you get the idea. It's a little over, but that's the basic measurement. Ceiling from where I am. Now that's from where I'm holding it. So it's just about 6 feet from where I'm holding it. And then you get the idea. So what it's doing is it's tallying all of those. I can also hold this button down and it'll start to make an obnoxious beeping sound. And now it's taking a continuous measurement until I get somewhere that I want to measure. And then I press the button again, and then it gives me that measurement. And then I can clear it. I can basically clear the last measurement, and then if I press it again, it clears all of them. And then apparently there's actually an app for this because it's Bluetooth enabled. So it'll connect with their app and then apparently other apps. So when you're taking measurements, it's just taking that and automatically adding it. So very, very cool. But for me, it's getting to positions where I have place modifiers, where I have place fixtures, where I place cameras, and making sure that I can get to rough those in very, very quickly. And sometimes when you're doing it by yourself, a tape measure, as you know, is cumbersome and a little bit of a pain. So there you go. I'll put a link to this. I mean, I'll put a link to a tape measure, but I think you probably have one of those. Don't forget to, and I'll see you on the next episode of The Daily Drop.